So, the end of the world finally came, you didn't prepare properly, and you end up scavenging the wastelands looking for Dinky dog food to survive. Guys, this is Fernando doing another video for Modern Survivalists. Hopefully that will never happen. Hopefully you will not end up eating dog food. But so as to ensure that, you need to have a good supply of actual food. And as I mentioned in my previous video where I talked a little bit about the American Blackout show by National Geographic, that in many ways there was quite a bit of fantasy in it, but there was some realistic stuff as well. It is very real that you need water, food, shelter, and safety every single day of your life. If those services are disrupted, you still need that every single day. Even though in theory water is more important because you would be dying sooner of lack of water than of lack of food, on more practical grounds, it's a little bit easier for people to find water than it is to find food. Water, even though it's a scarce commodity and precious in many ways, sometimes you can find it easier than actually finding food. If you look, for example, at streams, lakes, the supply of water, there's already a grid of water so as to supply most urbanized areas. Even if that is disrupted, there's ways of having trucks with water sent here and there. The problem is that food, even though it's not as vital as water so as to ensure your survival, food is expensive. Food, you're not as likely to have someone hand you over food. Even in places where it rains a lot, you could collect rainwater for drinking. If someone has a pump and they have a well, they would be willing to pump a little bit of water for you if you have your own container. Now, people handing you over food when they think they're going to be needing it themselves, for themselves or their family next week or even next month, and there's not a clear sign of when food will be supplied again, that's not likely to happen. Someone having food, thinking of his family, is not as likely to hand you over food as he is of handing you and helping you out with water. Okay, so food is very vital. It's a pretty important part of your survival and preparedness plan. And as we talked about in previous videos, you have to make sure that you eat what you store. When I mentioned lentils and rice in some of my previous videos where I cooked that, if you use those supplies for your meals, not only are you going to be rotating those so as to keep a fresh supply, you're also going to be having your family used to them in case you ever need them during emergencies. So that's pretty important, to eat what you store. At the same time, there are certain supplies that you don't eat as much or you don't rotate as much, and that's the case of canned food. Canned food is great because it has a very long shelf life. This can of Spam is best before June 2016. It stores very well, it does not require refrigeration, and it can be eaten right out of the can, without any cooking, without any adding of water. Those are great traits for a supply of food. Now, one of the things that ends up happening eventually is that the food does have an expiration date or a best before date. And again, I mentioned sometimes in my previous videos that it doesn't mean that the food is no good right after the best before date. Even in my book, I wrote quite a bit about that, mentioning cases in which food was found from the Civil War, over 100 years old, canned food, and it was still safe to eat according to scientists that tested it. And it's in theory what happens is that the food on the inside is canned and sealed from the exterior and is sterilized inside the can, so there's nothing that's going to rotten or make that food on the inside go bad. As long as it's kept sterilized, it should be good for eating. Now, that may not be very reassuring to some people. I've eaten canned tuna that was 2 years past its expiration date, and I can honestly tell you I didn't even notice a difference. Even 2 years past the expiration date, no difference noticed whatsoever. But how long does it really last? What is it, like 5 years, 10 years? I think that the best thing to do is actually going to the Hormel Food Company website and seeing what they say. So let's just do that so as to check it out. Can you see that? Yeah. It says Hormel Foods, product, refrigeration, microwavable, product, pantry. Okay, here we are. Getting that to focus, yeah. And it says, can we serve a canned product beyond the best by date shown on the container? That's the question in the frequently asked question website. And it says, the company themselves, they say, we recommend using our canned items by the date printed on the container for best quality, flavor, and freshness. After this time, they say, the product should be safe to use as long as the can has not been compromised, no dents, splits, seams, or other container damage. We recommend storing canned items in a cool, dry place to adequate preserve the flavor. Okay, so again, after this time, after the best by date, after this time, the product should be safe to use as long as the can has not been compromised. There's no real expiration date as long as the can is in proper condition. No dents, no leaking, no dents on the seams, no leaking, and I would add no bulging of the can. Those are signs that the can is in proper condition, that what's on the inside has been kept safe from the outside, from the exterior, and it should be safe for eating even many years beyond the expiration date, guys. So that's it. That's one of the points I wanted to mention, so as that you don't end up throwing maybe some of your old canned food if you have that it's gone beyond the expiration date or best by date, and maybe one day end up having to eat Dinkity dog food. Guys, that's all for now. Remember to subscribe and take care. See you on our next video. Have a great day.